Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the last day of April. We are right in the swing of things into the spring, and we are excited to get started tonight with our Raising Healthy Kids workshop. I'm Dr. Tara.
I'm Maria. So I know a number of you have spoken to me on the phone, and I guided you to come to this workshop. So I hope you find it helpful. You know, one of the things I always say to our new clinic members or anyone who's interested in coming to Advanced Vitality is, come on to these workshops, meet Dr. Tara, see how amazing she is, and you will decide to bring your kids here. So I'm going to be monitoring the chat, so if anyone has any questions, just put it in the chat and we'll try to answer it as we go along.
We are recording this, so if you're not able to get on here tonight and do want to reap the benefit of the information that we're going to share tonight, we will record it and we will send it out to all of those who are registered tomorrow or the next day via email. So yes, if you don't have anything in the chat tonight because you're not here, feel free to connect with us via email or through DMs or anything like that, and we will get in touch with you and answer those back. So let's start right away. I will share my screen to start here. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of this one. Hi. So welcome to Raising Healthy Kids, naturally. I think that this is a really important workshop. I love it because I am also a mom and I am raising my healthy kids as naturally as possible. I think it's really a difficult state to be in as parents right now because there's so much information accessible to us, especially information from different parts of the world and what different, especially our American neighbors and what they're doing and reasons why they're doing things. And sometimes it's difficult to navigate through that information and choose what is appropriate for us in Canada and understand why it might be a little bit different for us in Canada versus our neighbors to the south. And then also like what's happening in Europe and what's allowed to be eaten in Europe versus what's allowed to be processed and all of that kind of stuff. So this workshop is to kind of give you a little bit of ground rules into how you can support your kids as naturally as possible. We know that in certain circumstances, medication, surgery, other interventions are absolutely life-saving and necessary, but we think, and I believe as chiropractors, where we are governed under the Drugless Practitioners Act, is that we take a strong belief in our body's ability to be a self-healing and self-maintaining system. And that when we minimize any interference to that system and we don't create toxic environments and overrun it with tons of sort of like poisons and stuff that over time build up and create a negative environment, that is the optimal way that we can grow and we can grow our kids too. So I am Dr. Tara Sutton. I am the chiropractor and the owner of Advanced Vitality. I am a mom. I have twin daughters who are almost 9 years old, and I have devoted my life since finding out that I was pregnant with twins to helping other moms and parents and dads with their kids learn about the resources that they need to help live and grow a very healthy lifestyle with the least amount of input or interference from outside toxins that we can possibly live. Maria, I will throw this to you just quickly. Maria is also a mom. I am. And she has 2 daughters as well. But Maria also has a special certification.
Oh, so I'm a functional nutrition counselor as well. So, one of the debates when I started my functional nutrition, I used to always think that nutrition was the foundation because it was what we put into our bodies. And Dr. Tara would look at me and she would nod and smile. But you recognize that it's not just feeding your body, but what can your body do with those nutrients? And if the nervous system isn't working properly, which is what we are trying to do here, is to remove any interference from the nervous system so that whatever you feed your body or whatever other therapies or approaches you're using, the body is able to receive and able to adapt and able to do what it needs to do in order to grow and to mature properly. So while my background is in nutrition, I fully recognize that, you know, when we think of, you know, what is at the core or at the heart of wellness, it is our nervous system. Well said. Didn't want to.
So today we're going to talk about why you're here. We're going to talk about brains and the nervous system. We're going to talk about what we believe are the 5 pillars of health, which are the nervous system, movement, sleep, social engagement, clean living, and how you can use each of those facets to improve your child's health naturally. So without any other new things or new therapies or anything else that you maybe haven't heard of. So oftentimes we ask why people, why they come into this workshop and what they're looking for. And number one reason that we get is people are usually searching for answers. And honestly, when somebody comes to a pediatric chiropractor, usually it's sort of like the Hail Mary. It's like the last stop on the bus of we have tried medications, we have tried surgeries, we have tried Tylenol, we have tried Advil, we have tried speech therapy, we have tried OT, we have tried PT, and we have tried osteo, we have tried massage therapy, and then maybe they end up in our office. And usually it's because parents like you told them to. Yeah. Very rarely is it because we're out there doing this mass amount of marketing, but it's that word of mouth. It's the parents who have seen success with their children that are just like, guys, if this is what I saw with my kids, what are we waiting for? Get this done with your kids. And I will say that probably most parents or anybody, like even parents who come in here, like grandparents, aunts, like you're taking your kid to a chiropractor, why, what's wrong with their back? And what we're hoping to share with you today is that chiropractic is so much more than back pain and neck pain, which many kids don't complain about, and that it really is about a well-functioning entire body, that the adjustment really affects the way that their brains work and their nervous system. And so that's what tonight's workshop is going to be, hopefully opening your mind to that. So the second thing is people want to learn about resources available. A lot of time we have current clinic members and parents who have their kids under care or are under care themselves and want to upgrade their knowledge base, want to learn about more ways that they could support. They're like, okay, I'm on board. I understand how the nervous system and how chiropractic adjustments help the nervous system help my child. What else can I be doing to facilitate how well the adjustments are working? And then, as I said, to learn how chiropractic plays a role at all in children's health, because many people don't understand that concept. So when we talk about building brains, the number one thing that you need to understand is that every adjustment directly impacts the way anybody's brain works. And why that's important is because when we adjust, we are adjusting bones. Primarily, we are adjusting the bones of the spine, which are called the vertebrae, and then the bones of the cranium or the skull. There are multiple bones in there, it's not just one, and then the bones of the pelvis. Now, what those bony structures do are they are protective housing. So really at the end of the day, yes, the spine holds us upright, but it's literally like a Jenga. So the spine, the bony spine itself is not really about giving us a posture or holding us upright. What that bony spine is designed to do is to be a protective housing for your spinal cord. And what comes out of the spinal cord at each different level are called your spinal nerves. And those nerves are the key to having a really healthy body and a healthy life, and for the body to be doing the things the way it's supposed to do. And those nerves are communication pathways. and they go to every single part of your body. They allow the body to move. They allow the body to feel hot, to feel cold, to feel sharp, to feel dull. They allow the muscles to contract a little bit or a lot. They allow the knees to straighten. They also tell the organs how to digest. They tell your lungs when to breathe. All of those things are coordinated and controlled by the signal and the messaging system of the nerves. Now, where do those nerves get the messages from? They get the messages from your brain, which the protected housing is the cranium and the facial bones. There's a small hole at the base of your skull called the foramen magnum that the brain and turns into the brainstem, and then a small little tube goes right through there. And that tube continues right down through each of the holes of the vertebrae. When there is misalignment to those bony structures or misalignment to the protective housing in the cranial bones, in the spine, in the vertebrae, in the pelvis, it interferes with the way that the messages from the brain to the body are being transmitted. Think of it like cell phone reception. It's like 5-bar reception versus 3-bar reception. If you've ever been on a phone call with somebody and you run into a low signal area and you're like, what? And they have to repeat it, and every third word is dropped, and they have to repeat the message, and they have to repeat the message, and then they have to eventually, if you're like me, you end up being like, okay, I'm just gonna hang up, call me when you're in a better reception area. And that's the same way that the body works. If the brain is able to get the messages through quickly and unaltered and without any interference, the body can function the best that it possibly can. However, when there's interference, then the body starts showing symptoms of not working its best. And that's the basic understanding of chiropractic adjustments, chiropractic cranial adjustments, and chiropractic pelvic adjustments. It's about making sure that the signal pathways are clear and that they can get those messages through quickly. So when we adjust the spine, we directly influence the way that the messaging between the brain and the body can work, and that's how a neurofunctional approach is beneficial. So when you're building a brain, you can only do that through input, especially when we think of babies when they're young, right? When we're born into this C-shaped curve. We can't really do much. We can't really move our bodies. Even our visual cortex is underdeveloped, so they can see basically dark circles or big contrast, dark light. They can hear quite well. They can smell very, very well. There's not a lot of like taste that they can do, and they can't feel very well. They don't even have really good fine motor control. But that all gets developed. And what's interesting about the brain is that it is one of the only organs that's not fully developed at birth, but it will grow to about 80 to 90% of its adult size within the first 2 years of life. How is that possible? It is possible through input. And the best way to understand how input gets to the brain is through your 5 senses. So you can see, you can smell, you can taste, you can hear, you can touch. But there's one other thing that people forget, and what is the 6th sense? So for those of you who are here right now, I challenge you to put in the chat box, what do you think the 6th sense is? We're going to talk about it in a little bit because it's very important and it's how chiropractic plays a role, okay? So we're going to talk about tonight the 5 pillars of health from a natural, holistic approach. And as we've sort of already talked about, we talked about the basis and like where you need to start is a healthy nervous system. Because if you want to feed, as Maria said, really healthy, clean diet, build an amazingly healthy gut, and create a beautiful microbiome and get them to be incredible athletes and super strong, and then great sleepers, and they also have really good social engagement, but they have a crappy nervous system, is you'll be very limited by being able to achieve all the rest of these 4 components without a healthy nervous system. So if the brain is not able to tell the mouth to smile, to have a good engagement with somebody, the brain is not able to tell the body how to crawl, how to stand up, how to walk, then it doesn't matter how grandiose your dreams are for an NHL hockey player, none of that's going to happen with an underactive or interference to that nervous system. Sleep is a learned behavior, but before it's learned, it's very autonomic or automatic, controlled by something called the autonomic nervous system. So you don't have to teach a baby to sleep, they will fall asleep. But what about those babies that don't sleep well, that don't sleep long, that have a hard time calming down, that have a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, that need to be held all the time? Why doesn't their sleep system work as well as other babies? What's happening there? So the nervous system is the master system of the body. It controls and coordinates all of the functions of the body. Chiropractic is the only healthcare modality that addresses neurological interference along the pathways of the cranium, the spine, and the pelvis. And it is only through the chiropractic adjustment that you can minimize or remove that interference. So one of the other most common things that parents say when they come here and they start seeing these, oh my gosh, they say all the time, like, wow, it's magic, it's magic. And you're just like, no, it's not magic, it's science and it's neurology. And so it's one of the things that we hear all the time is, why didn't anybody tell me about this? Why didn't anybody tell me to do chiropractic? Why is chiropractic the Hail Mary and the last resort? And it's because nobody else knows about it. Nobody else knows what we do. They think that we are snapping and cracking backs like on TikTok and Instagram, and that we only work on back pain, neck pain, and headaches, which, guys, we do. But that's usually not one of the primary concerns with kids, right? So that movement, important, but I love this stat right here, because 90% of stimulation to the brain, so we talked about the brain can only grow through external input, 90% of that stimulation is generated by movement of the spine. So when your spine or your child's spine is restricted and the signaling patterns are restricted and interfered with, that is going to affect the way that their brain grows. That is going to affect the way that they can move, the way they can sleep, the way that they can go to school and learn at school. So that's where nervous system and movement go hand in hand. Sleep, as we said, why does it happen automatically in children, in some children, but not in others? And we talked about the autonomic nervous system is the primary system that controls the way that we eat, the way that we sleep, the way that we poop. So right from the get-go, we highly encourage moms to bring their babies in as soon after birth as possible to do our evaluation of their nervous system, to see if there's interference, to clear that interference so that they can grow and develop as nature intended without needing colic medication and antibiotics and Tylenol and therapy and all of this other stuff, especially in the first 2 years of life when their job is literally to grow a brain. So let's go and talk about this in a little bit more detail. So we talked about the nervous system being the missing link. It is where everybody else knows to go to all of the other things, but really we have to start with the nervous system, because as Maria talked about a little bit earlier, if you want to move this arm like this, because this is how you're supposed to do a certain action, the brain has to make the decision, the message has to go down through the spinal cord, the spinal nerve has to go to these muscles and tell these muscles bend and straighten, bend and straighten. If there's interference to that, that muscle can't bend or straighten. And that's all also part of their motor system. When that first year of life, they're hitting those motor milestones, or maybe they're not. And when they're not, that's a really good flag to parents to say, maybe there's interference to the nerves that are supposed to be telling their muscles what to do. Maybe the nerves to the arms they have interference, and that's why they can't go onto their tummy time and start pushing up. Maybe the nerves to the legs are having interference, and so now I have digestional issues, I've got constipation, I'm not moving stuff through my digestive system, but also I don't have really good nerve control to my legs to coordinate this pattern of cross crawl. So this nervous system, if I'm not hitting it home hard enough right now, it is the first step to overall health and wellness. And I think that most people sort of bypass that. And I had this conversation with another mom earlier today where I'm just like, okay, so here are the movements of your spine that I want you and your children to do twice a day. And the response was like, well, twice a day, like we'll be lucky. And I'm like, how often do you brush your teeth? She's like, twice a day. I was like, what's more important, your teeth or the house that protects everything, the spinal cord that tells the rest of your body what to do, how to do it? It literally tells your heart to beat, it tells your lungs to breathe, it tells you how to digest, it controls your temperature, it controls your posture. Like, what's more important, brushing your teeth twice a day or brushing your spine? You know what? I'll say they're both very important. Oral health is very, very important. But I will make a case for, if we spent a lot more time worrying about our spinal and our neurological health, we'd likely be way more healthy without any other like change in our life if we just looked at cleaning up our nervous system. So this is over here. It's not so big, but this is one of our favorite handouts. It's called the NeuroFuse box. You guys have it as a handout. If you are not a current clinic member with us, I highly recommend taking this handout and just going through the right side of the page where it says effect and just check marking, either for yourself or your children. Most of us are here for our children tonight, but check marking all of the symptomatic expression that your child has had in the past and or is currently experiencing. And what you will be able to do is you will be the chiropractor here, and you will be able to tell me, if and when you bring your child in for their assessment, tell me where you think the major amount of interference to their nerves, their nervous system is. Because the spine is basically like a fuse box in our house. It is an organizer. So the nerves that come through this that hole in the bottom of your skull and go down through that tube in your vertebrae, and then the nerves that come out at each level of the vertebrae, they go to very specific areas. And so when we start to see symptoms, like for example, right over here, we've got ear and sinus infections, allergies and congestion, immune deficiency, and then we look and we shift over to this side of that, or the cause right here. We look at the different organ systems that are in control of these symptoms. So when we have, and then if we go further to the other side of this handout, and we see C1 to C3, or the upper cervical. And then if you look over here, you'll see the color. So the maroon goes with this color here, the maroon there. You could tell me we have the most amount of check marks right over here in the effect, which I'm going to tell you is the nerves that come out of that area, or the maroon area of your spine, talk to, coordinate, and control these organ systems. If you have lots of interference to those nerves that come out of that area, you will likely have a significant amount of symptoms over on this side of the scan. So this is how we tell patients, in addition to looking at the scan results that we do, our insight scans, is we can say, okay, you can tell me the symptoms, you can tell me the story that you're experiencing or that you have experienced with your child. And then we're going to look at the scans, and I'm going to tell you based on the scans exactly where there is interference along your spine. And 9 times out of 10, they line up and they match up. And we can say, we think chiropractic care for your child would be a very important thing to add at this point in time to get rid of the neurological interference causing these organ systems not to work their best. And what we do, and I think it's on the next one, This is me scanning one of my children, one of my daughters. I do it at least yearly at this point in time, and I check them for an adjustment. I check their nervous system weekly, or at the very least bi-weekly. That doesn't mean that they always need an adjustment. Most of the time they do. They are growing and they are fairly athletic and put themselves into crazy positions and fight with each other and all the things. But what we're looking at when we do these scans is we are looking at any signs of interference to their nervous system along the spine that will create or be potential causes of those symptomatic expression. Now, Maria is our scan tech. She's like the boss lady. So I know that you do a lot of communication with respect to the scans. Is there anything that you want to talk about these scans?
With the scans, well, first, I mean, you can see, I'm not sure if that's Stevie or she, but I guess it's she.
You guessed wrong.
Stevie,
That's all right.
okay, always guess it wrong. Anyway, 'cause she has twins. So what the first thing is, the scans are non-invasive and they're very, very safe. So when your kids come in, I mean, we scans on a newborn are very easy because the newborn is usually asleep. But we do our scans on our toddlers, so all children get the scans. We either use their hand or an earpiece for the HRV scan. And then I think that is the EMG that Dr. Tara is doing. And then we do 2 along the spine. So very safe. It's like taking the temperature along the spine. So there are no x-rays or any kind of rays.
EMF.
There's nothing. It's just literally taking the temperature along the spine. And the similar is very similar to using a laser thermometer. So very safe. Scans are also very quick. We can do these scans literally 10 minutes. So safe, quick, non-invasive, and very, very easy.
And not painful.
And they're not painful. They don't feel a thing at all.
Maybe a tickle.
Maybe, but that's about it. And I think, you know, one of the things that so many kids say when they come to us is, oh, this is the fun doctor.
Mm-hmm.
This is the fun place. And, you know, going to a healthcare professional is not always fun for children, but I do think all our kids who come here, they're not afraid. They're very happy. They bring their dolls and their stuffed animals to also get adjusted. So we really try to make it a place where they will feel comfortable.
A side note on that, so like advanced vitality, it's got like the 3 pillars, which we call like our physical, our emotional, our environmental, or our biochemical. And it's like we're looking at how those 3 components add into to make a really healthy body. But when I came up with the name for advanced vitality, it wasn't because I was like, oh, I don't want to put like Dr. Tara chiropractic practice or anything like that. It was because I really wanted to challenge the status quo in healthcare. I didn't know that I wanted to challenge the status quo in healthcare for kids and for pregnant women. That came later, but I really wanted healthcare to be that, to promote healthy life and to figure out how I could do that for myself. But I mean, like most moms, I think we really start to look into that a lot more once we have kids. But I saw this, I've seen this Instagram post a number of times, and it gets me. And what did I say in Instagram? I can't unsee it now. But it's like, yes, sure. Like you, like the statement, like I would die for my children. Yes, I'm sure that you would. I'm sure. But would you live for your children? Will you invest in yourself and figure out how these 3 components are affecting your body, and figure out how those 3 components are affecting your children's body, and start the new trend in healthcare to actually be healthcare focused and not sick care. Let's not wait until we're sick to start making interventions. Yeah. Let's start now. Let's learn how to raise our healthy kids naturally, and learn and practice it on yourself. If you're not certain about incorporating it into your life for your child yet, practice it on yourself and look at the benefits and see the benefits and feel the benefits of what it does for yourself before you want to do it with your kids. So we talked about movement of your child's motor system and muscle, It's crucial to their brain and neurological development, but it's also really important to other aspects of the body that we don't think about. And that's where it comes into that automatic side of the body, or that autonomic nervous system. I love saying this to parents. Kids don't really get it, but it's literally the autopilot of your body, but it controls all of your vital functions. The only way that you stay alive is because you have a healthy autonomic nervous system, a healthy autopilot, but most people don't.
Mhm.
And your children, when, as we talked about, how come some kids can sleep and some kids can't? How come some kids have colic and some kids don't? How come some kids get constipated and some kids don't? What's the difference? And again, most of the time, it's because they've got a crappy autopilot. Is the process of being born, moms can attest to how difficult it is for you, but they went through that too. And they went through that head first, either through the vaginal canal or through a hole in your tummy. And what happens is a lot of that interference to the nervous system happens right at that moment.
Mhm.
And it creates a massive amount of interference to that autopilot system, the autonomic nervous system. And so our babies are going to start telling us very early on in life, hey, I can't move. I've got, like, see my head, it's tilted to one side, or it's rotated to one side. You want me to breastfeed on that, on this side, and I can't. I can't latch. I get mad at you. I
Mhm.
throw up. I'm pissy. First sign right there is that what we call torticollis. Second sign, they're not hitting their motor milestones. They can't roll over. They can't hold their head up. They can't bring their knees in underneath them to start that crawling. Signs right there. Second signs, when they do start crawling, maybe it's not a normal symmetrical crawl. Maybe it's like those cool, cute little commercials for those Pampers. Like, whatever way your little one moves or gets around, we've got it covered. Don't worry about the blowouts. For me, it makes me want to like smack
Mhm.
myself in the head. I'm like, that right there is abnormal movement patterns, abnormal biomechanical patterns, which is a great indicator of the strength of the body, the strength of the nervous system and the brain being like, I need to get from here to here. How am I going to get there?
Yeah.
Well, this pattern doesn't work. I don't have the brain networks in my brain for my brain to send those messages to the body and the body to coordinate that movement. So I need to come up with a different way to do that. But for us, that movement and those movement patterns are a clear window into their brain, and where there is any interference to their brain, the neurological input from their spinal cord as to why that movement pattern isn't working properly. So movement, it even talks about how studies have found that physical activity can improve memory, focus, attention, cognition, executive function. Why do we focus so much on movement and physical activity? It literally is the nourishment to your brain. Why do chiropractors prescribe exercises? It's not to make you stronger or more flexible. It's to keep your spine healthy. As I talked about or alluded to before, it's literally the brushing and the flossing of your spine, of your nervous system, the same that you do to your teeth. And I know as a mom that before our kids even have teeth, we're using those little finger things to hopefully support a good oral health routine for our kids so that it's not hell on earth when we try and teach them how to brush their teeth, right? And we take them to a dentist. The dentists recommend coming like by the time their first tooth comes out, like 6 months or 1 year old. When are we taking them to chiropractors? I think national utilization of chiropractic in general, not even pediatrics, in general is about 12%. We can help better, right? So infants, based on the Canadian Society for Exercise Physiology, less than 1 year, they should have a minimum of 30 minutes of tummy time. The tummy time method, that's a trademark method, recommends even more than that. Tummy time is not just an exercise. Tummy time is a brain builder. So if you want more information on that, we talk a lot about that, but connect with us because we can give you more references to that. But if your kid hates tummy time, red flag, come see the chiropractor. Toddlers 1 to 2, about 180 minutes at any intensity. Preschoolers 3 to 4, 180 minutes, but at least 60 minutes of that should be energetic play. And children and youth 5 to 17, 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous per day, plus muscle and bone strengthening activities a minimum of 3 times a week. How many of our kids are getting that? How many? And this is like recommended by a national organization. This is not me saying this is what's necessary to have optimal kids. This is the national organization saying this is your minimum requirement. Sleep. Oh, I could talk about sleep until the cows come home. Sleep is a learned behavior. It's why there is something called sleep training. Neurologically, our babies, their brains, are not wired to learn behavior until somewhere between 11 and 12 weeks. So if you are trying to incorporate any of those I words, sleep training before 3 months old, good luck. You might have a baby that's just a great sleeper, or you might have a baby that is neurologically immature at this point, which is completely normal up until about 3 months, and they would be better off inside of us, except for we would explode. So you need to do all the other things to help calm a nervous system into sleep. And that is things like hugging them, soothing them, letting them smell you, hold them, rocking them, singing to them, being near them. Those are all things that are completely normal, and don't let anybody ever tell you that you can spoil a baby, especially in those first 3 months of life or the 4th trimester. So it's a learned behavior. It's stimulated by a specific neuroscience. I already talked about how the brain will reach about 80 to 90% of its adult size by 2 years. But sleep helps. One thing that I think is really important to help people understand sleep, especially in our kids, is that it helps them consolidate memories and the information that they learned that day, which leads to improved academic performance. So if you need help with sleep and understanding how to support a healthy sleep environment, healthy sleep behavior, that kind of thing, a sleep trainer for any age is very helpful for you, and know that it's based in science and that it makes sense, and that most of the time they will give you multiple options, and you will be able to choose what sort of like vibes best with you. So natural sleep remedies for kids. Establishing a bedtime routine is very important, but what that means, and you can attest to this, is as they grow older and they mature and they go through the next phase of their growth and their development, that bedtime routine will change. So do you have any what did you do with your kids?
My kids were pretty good sleepers. I had my younger one knew that she needed, 10 hours of sleep a night. So she was always in bed by 8:30. And my older one, again, pretty good sleeper, and they still remain good sleepers. One of the things I know sometimes they would use white noise just to eliminate any sort of distractions. They do sleep. One of them has a salt lamp in her room, and she also, so it's not completely dark, but the salt lamp sort of gives a little bit of a glow. And they both have bedtime routines. So they both shower before bed. They use whatever lavender scented, whatever, before bedtime as well. So we've always had a good routine, and they've maintained that into adulthood.
I love that you brought up the essential oil, because essential oils are also really beautiful ways to incorporate natural remedies and to detox your, again, if you're having a shower before you go to bed, what are the soaps that you're using? Are they racked with fragrances, which is going to shift the nervous system into that sympathetic or that gas pedal system, which is going to wire you to come on and come like back away, right? So using essential oils like a lavender, which is designed to help the nervous system calm down or move into that parasympathetic state. We call that brake pedal state. But actually, in addition to that, is that a new research study that was done with older adults, but I will say will likely eventually confer to the younger population, showed that exposure to essential oils 2 hours, not necessarily before, but during the bedtime routine. So again, completely like through a diffuser or on your hands or anything like that, actually improved cognition. So they did it, I think they were doing it on older adults specifically with dementia and with potential Alzheimer's. But how cool is that? Is that just diffusing a natural essential oil passively beside you as you get your child ready for bed can help their brain work better. To me, I'm just like, amazing. Let's do it. Let's go. So creating an ideal room condition, the body naturally lowers its body temperature in order when it moves into that parasympathetic state to go to sleep. And so having a cooler room facilitates that. Darker rooms help that. A salt lamp, if you are going to use a nightlight, you do want to keep it in the warmer tones. So like the reds, the oranges, those kind of things, they really stimulate one side of the brain that supports the parasympathetic activation. Whereas the blue lights, purple lights, it's kind of the whole shtick on avoiding screen time, which is a blue light back, really stimulates the sympathetic nervous system and stimulates the on buttons. So if you are going to use a lamp, think about the colors and how they're going to be touching certain parts of the brain, and you want to touch the part of the brain that helps calm you down and relax you. Warm baths, avoiding that screen, stimulation and activity during the day. I don't know if you know this, but getting outside and having glass free exposure to sunlight early in the morning for about 20 minutes will help stimulate the production of your melatonin, which is your sleep hormone for later in the day. So it needs that stimulation to come on, and so then it will drop. And that is what our circadian rhythm is based on. And then calm emotional connection before bedtime. I think I hate the bedtime routine. I suck at it myself. And it's one of the like, I feel like I'm constantly nagging, like, did you brush your teeth? Did you pick up your clothes? Are you ready for tomorrow? And it is like just a drainer for me. It is a red light activity. However, my husband loves it. He loves sitting there. He loves reading. He has since they were like really, really young, since they were babies. He's read the most ridiculous books to them, cover to cover. But so we had to swap, where I'm so great at everything else. We had to swap, and I had to be like, okay, this is not my forte. It's why I work at night. That's why I'm here right now. And he's putting them to bed. So he is very calm. Things don't like rile him up. He's not a nagger. He is the kind of person that's like, okay, let's brush your teeth. All right. Have you brushed your teeth? Okay. Let me tuck you into bed. Okay. What book do you want to read? Okay. Let's put on your diffuser. Like he does all those things, and he does them way better than I do. So making sure that you've got the calm parent who's stepping in, or both of you if you need to, but just keeping that energy calm, because vibration is contagious. And so we don't want to vibrate them into like an irritable, frustrated mood right before they go to bed either. So then we get into social engagement, interaction with other children. I think for us working in a neurodiverse population, social engagement is a huge facet of healthcare that parents are very concerned about with their children. And it also is one of the very first things that they can notice with eye contact, smiling, babbling, cooing, right? And all of those are really good indicators of brain development, brain growth. So definitely our social engagement with others is very, very important. Social engagement with our parents as kids, like so you with your baby, is also really important. And that's a beautiful dovetail about choosing the right parent for the right activity if necessary. And that was something that my husband and I set the ground rules of really, really early when our kids were little, was just like, you're at a level right now, and like the kids are feeding off of that and I'm feeding off of that, like, why don't you go have a bath right now? That would be his signal. Like, why don't you go have a bath right now? Because for me, I loved my baths. It was very calming. I put my salt lamp on. I used some essential oils in it. It was dark. I would have a candle sometimes. So it was the way for him to be like, hey, babe, you're kind of like neurotoxing the wrong way. And it's really affecting everybody else too. So talking about your social engagement, what your face looks like, what the tone in your voice looks like, they're going to start mirroring that. And that's how they're going to grow certain emotional facets of their higher levels of their brain. And it's what they're going to learn as, oh, this is how I be a human. My face looks like this. My voice sounds like this. My body language goes like this. But the social isolation. I thought the social isolation study was very important, very interesting, and how babies born at it was an orphanage, yes, and how that affected their overall personality later on in life negatively. And it was by no fault of their own, but how important that social engagement, the hugging, the loving, the touching, the face, the conversation is important, and important as we grow older. And I, like, you can chime in here because she's got like almost, she has university age students, kids, daughters right now. But definitely for me, that has been a hard thing as we move into the phase of raising healthy kids naturally and making sure that I get that movement, and they're at all these activities, gymnastics and cheer and piano and all of this, which is good for their brain and good, but also being able to, all right, let's sit down and have a family conversation. Let's sit down and have a family meal. Connect with me, talk to me about what you've done. And like both of my kids went through some sleep disordered behavior, one went through some anxiety, and we were using all sorts of different ways to help with the engagement. The social engagement starts in the home, right? And so one of my favorite tools that I use in order to help them start to understand their internal feelings and then tell adults in a way that adults would understand was something called the Time and Toolkit by Generation Mindful. And I think that's in our resources in a little bit, but it's a really great way to help understand as adults their neurological response, especially like talk about terrible twos. Terrible twos is a good indicator of a brain shift into left brain development, which is the logical side, which is, well, I want that and I can't have it, and that's not logical to me, so I'm going to react emotionally with this display. And that's a really good sign that their brain is developing in a certain way. But we need to teach them how to manage their big feelings. But it's all based in neurology and science. And so I thought that tool was really, really helpful for them to start understanding emotions, understanding what emotions look like, what they feel like, and then being able to communicate that to other humans. Another tool that we used was a journal. So before they could write or write well, is we would sit down and in the evening and be like, tell me one good thing like one great thing that was amazing that happened today. Tell me one thing that you wished went better, and tell me one thing that you're looking forward to tomorrow. And they've really started to look forward to that engagement part. And as well as it really started to talk about, yes, there are things that are not going to go well, but it started to train their brain also into the attitude of gratitude and looking for, like, I always have to find one great thing that happened, and I have to prime my brain to be excited for something that's great that's going to happen tomorrow. What did you guys use, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot?
No, so I mean, for us, I didn't have a lot of tools, but my kids are like 21 and 18. So at that time, we were busy. I had two little ones. So it was really just trying to survive. But one of the things that was always special was time alone with one of them. So if one was at dance, the younger one might be with me. And it's about spending that time where you're just focused on that one. And even if it's only for 15, 20 minutes, it is that touch point of, and it doesn't have to be, so how are you, so what happened today, but just
Making the space.
making the space for them to talk about, oh, that's a really nice dress you had on. Was that your favorite one that we picked out today? Where do you remember where we got it? And just get conversations going, and them always knowing, I think, and reinforcing that, you know, you would always be there for them. You know, I write letters to them and I keep them in a journal, and I don't think they've read them, but I always feel like, you know, when I'm no longer here, you have these letters from mom, and anything that I forgot to tell you, they're in these letters. So I think for every parent, it's about finding that time in this busy day. And if you have multiple children, just finding 10, 15 minutes to be alone with one of them. And just building the bonds that way. Because we all love our children the same amount, but differently, right? Because each child needs something that's different. So as parents, we need to recognize even how we parent our kids is slightly different. We're the same person, but we recognize that their needs are different. And I think, you know, when we look at social engagement, that is what we are ultimately trying to teach them. That when they get along with other people who are not within the family, that they build that EQ. They recognize emotional signals, and if we are engaged and we give that to them, they will give it back to the world.
I love it. I mean, we all went through COVID, and the studies are now coming out to talk about how nasty the lack of social engagement as a result of the lockdowns and the reduction of extracurriculars were. But it just is to really like bring it home that engagement is so important for our kids, regardless of their age, but so important for our kids. And whatever you can do to really support them getting involved in team sports or team curricula, team act, not necessarily team, like get out to an art class, get out to like if the community is doing things, like so important, even for kids who are like mine and incredibly shy. And I would say that I'm not the biggest joiner either. And I've talked about how it's been a challenge for me too as a parent, but I have to lead by example and show them how important it is to make those connections. Clean living and diet. We never know where to start on this one. So on this workshop, we've kind of gone as basic as we can to give you the recommendations in order to support a healthy diet. Kids are exposed to way more toxins than ever before, and more importantly, a young, underdeveloped, or not underdeveloped, but like let's say immature brain that hasn't fully developed, just doesn't deal with toxins the way an adult brain does. And when they're exposed to toxins earlier, they leave scars on the way that the brain works, okay? So that's why it's so important. It's why there are things like baby products that have less toxic ingredients in it. And for me, I'm just like, why don't we just use the baby products forever, right? But in our clinic, we are curating a great collection of our favorite products that are clean. They're science-based, they have certification, that they have the minimum amount or zero toxins for our lives as humans and moms and parents, but for our kids too. I think the most important thing that you need to know is you got to start with their gut. There is a massive gut-brain connection. Their gut is also one of the things that is not fully developed in the first year of life. And it is literally designed to be a leaky gut. So if you're familiar with gut health, the term leaky gut is bad, especially for us as adults, but babies are born with a leaky gut. And by about the age of 12, those gap junctions in their intestinal linings have closed. It's why that we don't recommend them having honey or dairy or gluten, because it will literally create that colic-like behavior. And why moms who are breastfeeding and have a colicky baby I still don't understand why we need to stop them from having dairy, because their digestive system and their milk production system literally gets rid of the like this stuff that causes it. But again, for us, we're like, let's look at their nervous system and see if there's interference to the digestive system and see if that's the cause. But it starts with gut health. If there's anything that you need to know about gut health, I highly recommend one of my favorite doctors. She's an integrative holistic doctor, but she's trained as a pediatrician, and her name is Dr. Elisa Song. She has lots of free workshops, lots of free information, but she is all about teaching you how to make sure that your kid has great gut health. I talked about that one, but here's my most favorite simple swaps that you can start right away to minimize the toxic stuff in your life right now that you might not even know is toxic. So plastic containers, plastic have forever chemicals. And if you want to know more about forever chemicals, Dr. Song talks a lot about it. But plastic, we need to get the heck, like we need the plastic containers that we store our food in, that we heat our food up in, that we feed our babies with and out of. Like we just need to get rid of that. So bamboo, stainless steel, glass, it's where it's at. Processed food. I think this is kind of like excuse my language, a shitty situation, because I think there's so much processed food touted to us or marketed to us as healthy, organic, gluten-free. But if it's still packaged up, then we still don't know exactly what is in it and what went into it. So, I mean, I know it's difficult to like make sure that we eat as much whole food as possible, but really it saves you a ton of energy later on down the line when you've developed a really great palate and a really great microbiome by just eating whole foods and not necessarily needing to take a ton of like gut cleaners and probiotics and all of that, which we do, but you can get a lot of it from just whole food.
And then I'll just add one thing to this.
This is your forte.
It's, you know, people, let's just say you had a Big Mac meal or whatever it's called, and so you had a Big Mac, fries, and a large soda. That, you know, you look at that volume, and then an hour later you're still hungry. Now remember, like you've just put macros into your body. So your protein, let's say you put protein, let's say it was good quality meat, protein, carbs, and fat into your body. So you fed the macronutrients, but there are no micronutrients. Your cells are still hungry. Your mitochondria, all this, they're still hungry. They're still looking for the nutrients. Where are the nutrients? So your body is like, we're hungry. We didn't eat anything. There's nothing. As opposed to feeding, you know, and looking at it at a cellular level, giving yourself good quality micronutrients, you know, all your vitamins, your minerals, your magnesium, your zinc, and then your cells themselves are getting food. They're getting their nutrients. They are not going to signal and they are not hungry. So sometimes it's not quantity, it's quality. And believe me, I understand the issues at the grocery store very, very well. But always think about quality, that maybe you don't need, you know, a Costco size package of Bigfoot gummies, whatever that, you know what I'm talking about, Bigfoot things. If you bought, you know, a container of organic strawberries for $7.99 and you ate those instead of your foot-long gummy things, the nutrients, right, they're there. So always think about quality and not quantity. So that's my thing on processed food, that sometimes we think our carts have to be this full and they don't. Just quality ingredients. And you don't need to eat like tons, just good stuff.
And try, like I challenge you, try and make, like out of the stuff that you buy, try and make some of it. And the challenge there is like, so for example, this past weekend, my kids like muffins. So I'm like, great, I'll make the muffins. And I get to um, be the doctor of like, what do I want to put in this muffin? Ooh, they really like this. I'm going to add more almonds, or I'm going to add more cranberries, and I'm going to add flax seeds. And they don't even know what's in there, but it's a muffin. And they're just like, great, I'm eating muffins. But one thing that I love as a resource is the Environmental Working Group, EWG. They have an app, highly recommend downloading it because it's going to talk to you about toxic chemicals in things like food, in things like body care, hair care, lotions. It's going to talk to you about healthy and safe sunscreen that you can use for yourself and for your kids. And I think there's something else now. They have just blown up that whole thing. And I highly recommend. But they, every year, they put out a list called their Clean 15 and their Dirty Dozen. And so their Dirty Dozen are the foods that the whole foods, the produce that you should absolutely buy organic. And then the Clean 15 those are the foods that you don't have to worry about buying those organic. And basically it comes down to what are the pesticides used on those foods and what are the GMOs, the genetically modified organisms that are used in those foods too. And those are the things that really throw off your gut microbiome, and it throws off your nervous system because your nervous system is too busy, or your child's nervous system is too busy trying to detoxify these things that they can't detoxify, and they just get stuck in their body and live there forever. And God knows what they're going to do there forever. But so that's a great resource to have. It's in our handouts. Cleaning products and with harmful chemicals. Like, I mean, if it's got one of those things with like a skull on it or like a blow up, like put it out in the garage. You don't need it in your house. You don't need to clean your house. We don't need the house to smell like roses, and it doesn't need all of those like, oh my gosh, like the fabric softeners or the scent boosters now. I'm like, oh, here's some more toxic fragrances. And they're toxic because they literally are chemical made. They're not real. They're not from, like, an essential oil is a cold pressed tree or fruit or peel or something. It's literally a natural component. These are chemically synthetic components that get into our body, that affect the way our brain works, that live in there and are very hard to detox. So get them out of your life if you can. It's a really great place to start. Find some cleaning products. If you don't know where to start, I highly recommend EWG, or go to the natural health food store or the natural health food section in your grocery store. Just start with that. Fragrances, candles, personal care products. Once you start getting these out of your life, the artificial fragrances, you will see how potent they are, and how like in most cases, there's one that's recent, like it's a fragrance, like a scent booster, and there's a grandfather in it, like, yeah, and scents give me headaches, but this one is fine. I'm like, yeah, scents do give you headache because you've been exposed to a lifetime now of artificial fragrances. So what are we doing to our kids that we're just like, here, let's put like the automatic in there in every bathroom. We're gonna clean your sheets in baby, and we're gonna put like fragrance centers in there, and I'm gonna do all your laundry in it, and like everything is gonna smell like perfectly clean. And really, if we could do an evaluation of how many toxic chemicals are now you're exposed to in your own house, if you've got babies that have congestion, that have breathing issues, that catch a cold, that can't clear the respiration or the respiratory system, look at how many toxic fragrances that you might have in your house. Tap water, try and use your filtered water, and that's just because of an exposure to chlorine, fluorine, and any other things. Like, nobody is really, that's a whole other story too. Indoor air clean, so keeping your windows open, except during allergy season, finding air purifiers if you can get them, using diffusers, and just filling your house with plants, because plants are natural air cleaners, and it's super healthy and super easy. Healthy sunscreen, so using a mineral base versus a zinc oxide, and that goes back to that Clean 15 Dirty Dozen EWG website we talked about. So there you go, the EWG Environmental Working Group. Oh, they've got, excuse me, the Think Skin Deep database. There's a Think Dirty app, which has, again, a very simple thing of like understanding what's not healthy and what is healthy. The Green Parent is a magazine and a website that focuses on natural and sustainable living. Pathways magazine, we have tons of them in our foyer here. So those are just some really great resources. We've also provided some in your handouts. So now what? As we come to a little bit over the 8 o'clock hour, we close with pulling this full circle and being like, if you can clean up all of the other things and support a healthy social engagement, support healthy movement, support a clean living and clean diet, and getting a really great healthy gut microbiome, what else can you do to help your kid be the best kid that they can possibly be and live as healthy as possible? Is you clear up their nervous system. You measure it, you find where there's interference, we let you know what the recommended care plan is specific to your child, their needs, your goals, and you get it removed. And you start that with chiropractic care. And this is one of our other handouts. We call it the gas versus the brake. And I was talking to you about the brake pedal and the gas pedal and how the autonomic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system and how that can get shut and like really shifted out of place. And it can be shifted out of place by all of those toxins or the trauma of birth or the emotional distress versus during like not having those social engagement opportunities. And it can end up where our kids should sort of rev their life engine over here. It can end up that they live here. And then these are the kids that if you've got one of those that is just like, it takes one little thing like a noise or a song or a kid at school that just shoots them right from here to 10. They go from seemingly 0 to 100 like that. But really it's because their life has been so full of these stressors that their whole nervous system revs way high and it just shoots them right out of balance so quickly. And what we find with our kids is that once we teach their parents how to clean up their life and get rid of the things that are helping to cause that dysautonomia or that imbalance in their nervous system, and then we use the nervous system and we start using the adjustments to help heal the nervous system and create better communication and better pathways, is all of these things that parents are so concerned about and are filling their kids with appointment after appointment with specialist after specialist, or medication, or trying this medication, or Tylenol and antibiotics for chronic ear infections. Guys, when it comes down to it, really it's how is their nervous system working? How is it functioning? And can it function better? So these are some of our kids. These are some of happy, healthy kids. That's little Finn over there. Finn was born via C-section. So there was a lot of trauma and irritation to the autopilot, especially right from birth. So he had a lot of digestive issues. He had a lot of allergies. And his mom is so devoted to like doing whatever she can naturally. And chiropractic care has been great. The whole family is under care. We got baby Sargun, who mom was just really like not hyperactive, very proactive. And as you can see, like it's early, it improves the overall health and it addresses certain specific health issues if necessary. So it's kind of like you can take this as a proactive approach too, because we know that lots of kids don't grow out of something and they'll grow into more things. And then we got little Eloise, her family, her mom's a pediatric nurse, and she has chosen chiropractic for all 4 of her kids because, as she said, like healthy, maintain good posture, and spinal health. I love that she used the word spinal health because we touched on that with a little bit of pressure today, right? So if you have any other questions, comments, concerns, you can email us, you can phone us, you can DM us, you can drop some questions right now. But that's our presentation for tonight. And that has been very fun for me. And I appreciate you all being here with me tonight. So now I will open up the floor, see if we have any questions? Doesn't look like it. All right, so you guys know how to reach us if you need us, and thank you for being here. We'll see you again next month. We have our Marvelous Mamas workshop, so that's everything that you need to know for pregnancy to help support a healthy pregnancy and a faster, easier, and safer labor and delivery. So if that's you, or if that's a friend or a family member that you want to share with them, please send that. That information will be coming out, and our newsletter will come out by the end of this week too. So we'll have lots of fun stuff about what's happening in May, our Mother's Day, for next month. But for now, good night. See you later.